Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here, aka David Field. I'm probably known most commonly to my friends and that sort of stuff because that is actually my real name, but Dave Dobbs is a name that's sort of come through sort of like a few years of doing sort of satirical politics, and most people know me as Dave Dobbs, so I kind of stick with it really. But overall, though, my last video, I must admit, I was really struggling when I made the last video. I was so upset about the sort of like state of everything, especially upset about Europe, and I was, I was leaving Europe, the Britain leaving Europe, and a whole load of other things, and I just see us now another sort of like we all find ourselves at another kind of juncture now, and how we're going to deal with all this, and I talked a lot in my last video about belief and about how it's very, very difficult for us to even believe what's going on, and how, well, I guess I'm kind of trying to say that belief in itself is the thing that we're really struggling with at the moment, and belief is what everyone is going to have to, you can go out and find all the truth you want in the world, but if you can't believe it, it's useless to you. It's like eating all the nutrients you can, but not having the ability to digest the nutrients. And this is a big part of what's happening in our nutritional diets at the moment, especially in the West. We find that people are just shoving food in their mouths, but they're dying of malnutrition because they can't access the nutrients, because they haven't got the right type of nutrients that enable their body to pick up or absorb the fundamental nutrients. So. And information is a bit like that. We can go on a quest to find information, but if we can't believe that information before it comes in, then we really are. You might as well not bother going on the quest in the first place, because what's the point in having the information and finding the information if you can't believe it? And so this is the big thing about where we're at the moment, and this is where we're all going to be taken off guard. Even myself, most people are going to be taken off guard by their beliefs, because they can't allow the information to filter through to the core of who they are, because their belief mechanisms, what I would call your mind control, your govern to rule over, mente, mind, that controls your mind through belief structures, is limiting what you're allowing in. And so we are limiting what we are willing to do to deal with what's coming in. And so here I am talking about Nibiru again, and I'm going to hopefully bring in a lot more information and just talk about some different things that we need to be thinking about right now. Can I just say, as a result of putting up the last video, I must admit I was really emotional when I made that last video, and a lot of stuff came up, and I never delete videos. When I put them up, I think, no, I put them up, live with it, it's honest and it's true, and so that video, like the others, will stay, unless of course it gets taken down by some means or other, and that happens with a few of my videos. They get taken down beyond my control. I never actually take them down. I just think, well, if I've done it, let's live with it. Better. I'm more regret for not being crazy enough sometimes than being too diligent and logical, because the truth is really quite crazy at the moment, and that's what we're all going to have to try and overcome, is that belief structure, so we can look at it. But can I just put a big thank you out there for all those that made such lovely comments on my last video and said, and I really need that as well, because it gives me a little bit of purpose to keep coming out there and saying that, because I'm not a scientist, and I've never tried to claim that I am a scientist. But obviously I review scientific data, and I try best to understand it. And I see a lot of people out there that don't come from a completely fully studied science background, or aren't perhaps qualified in academia, but I see a lot of very intelligent people out there that sometimes have qualifications in arenas that have nothing to do with the things that they're talking, but they do an enormous amount of research, and you can really see that they're doing an enormous amount of research. And sometimes the people who haven't got the degrees aren't so kind of sworn to kind of the academic story that is kind of so frowned upon by the scientific community, and can go a little bit further, perhaps in the fields of the sort of like of the unbelievable sometimes. And so, and that's what Nibiru exists in the realms of the unbelievable. And if you look at the ancients, it was so often depicted as this kind of red orb with these eagle wings, as though it was an eagle. And I believe that's because it is like an eagle. It comes in sorry, Freudian slip, like an eagle, and it comes in from the sun, but never blocks the sun out completely, but it comes in, it doesn't flap, it doesn't make a noise, it just comes in silently next to the sun. You can't see it, and it takes you when you're most off guard. And for an eagle, you know, they can pull enormous creatures, and they just have to take them off guard at that critical point on the side of a mountain or something like that, and they go fall into their death, and the eagle gets its dinner, and so I often think that's why Nibiru has been depicted as that, because it is literally coming in, it's blindsiding us as it comes in, and I only discovered it because I was told in a dream. And you know, last year when I was talking about it and I started working out these cycles, I was considered really quite crazy, and now I see a lot more people making videos. I see so much testimony of this thing coming in, it's ridiculous. So that's pretty much the introduction to this. Again, thanks for all the lovely comments. What I'd like to say now is a little bit more about the preparation for Nibiru before I... what I'm going to do is, as I talk here, I'm just going to put a Dill Martin, some of the footage of a Dill Martin video up, and I'm going to put some of the footage of Jeff P up following that. Whilst I just talk about, I really want to talk about what are preparations of what you could be doing now to prepare, that would not change your life in any way, shape or form really, but to do some preparations where you're not compromising your beliefs, where it's not really, if you believe or you don't believe, is it really going to matter either way? Will these efforts that I'm going to suggest now, would believing Nibiru affect these efforts one way or the other, or would these efforts that I'm about to advise for you to do right now benefit your life? And so what I'm going to suggest to you is that you go out and buy 2 to 3 months at least food, you know, like seed storage, things like that, you know, like rice, all the long grains, pasta, all the sort of things you would eat over the next 3 months, especially leading up through December. You know, you really just try and think of all the staples that you would have for the next 3 months that you could buy cheaply. Rice, pasta, you'd save yourself money if you bought those in bulk. You know you're probably going to eat them. You know, the sort of things you'd mix with those sort of things that you could store for the next 3 months, that you could use for the next 3 months. There'll be a perfect opportunity to have in the larder that might give you a little bit of sort of like security, that, you know, if we do hit financial difficulties, if Nibiru comes by, if anything came by that's difficult, that poses a problem, that food, having that food is a little bit of security. That's the first thing. What would it change? You know, rice is really quite cheap, pasta, all these sort of things, cans of tomatoes, things like that. You know, a bag of potatoes. The great thing about a bag of potatoes is that if you keep it in a dark place, it stores for a long time. So think about foods that you could buy, that if you bought them, it wouldn't be like you're planning for the end of the world. You're just trying to get through the next 3 or 4 months and just buying some of that food in advance. If you did that, you'd save money. The second thing I want you to think about, and it's so important, is seed. Getting hold of some seed. Organic seed, I can help you there. If anyone wants seed and wants to work with me, I'm in touch with quite a few big seed banks. And I'm assembling now various seeds for gardeners which are organic seed, 80% success rate, which is very high in seed yield, kind of like the growing of them. And buying seed, basically, that if you grow these crops, what's going to happen is that they are going to produce more seed. All the seed that I would recommend will yield seed in, you know, they're not like Monsanto seeds and this horrible merger that's happening. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, between Monsanto and the big European equivalent, I can't think of its name now, Bayer, but I'll check. We'll talk about that in a little bit, you know, because we're also used to the Monsanto, and now we're seeing a big merger coming up. We're going to talk about that on the political side of what's happening. But it's just staying with the actual seeds right now. Having seed that will reproduce more seed, so you get food and you get more seed, because if there is a big crash, and we've got big things happening on the economic markets, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But having seed that produces more seed, because seed is going to become invaluable. It's going to be a currency in itself. Anything that makes food, that reproduces food, because you can store loads of food, but wouldn't it be better? Nature doesn't store food. Nature allows for us to grow food. It's all exists in the now, and we can reproduce. And we have to learn to store through the difficult seasons. But nature stores its entire food bank in intellectual property, in seeds. And you need to think a little bit more like that, because they're going to be the most valuable thing on the planet. When difficult times turn up and there's no food around, seed is the most valuable thing. Especially seed that produces more seed, so you're not dependent on that which gave you the seed, that you can become a seed supplier yourself. So holding seed. So that's the next thing. And then if you're going to hold seed, you're going to think, okay, what's going to happen? You're going to come around to sort of like to February, March, April, and you're going to start wanting to grow those seeds, and you're going to have to start digging up the land, and that's going to take a lot of energy, and you're going to need food. Or you come to the end of the sort of like growing season now. Certainly in the West, you're coming to the end of the growing season now. Time to mulch the land. Time to cover those areas that you are going to devote to sort of like to gardening. If try to cover those with cardboard, with carpet, with anything you can cover those. And right now, or at the end of the season, once you've got completely to the end of the season, what you want to do is you want to mulch that land. You want to kind of cover that. You want to make sure that you've covered a big area. That means that you're not going to have to do loads of heavy digging when it comes to growing time. It's all done for you. And if they are spraying with all sorts of horrible crap, then you know that's going to be covered and protected from whatever they're spraying up there, because you really don't know what they're doing. Protect the area. Start thinking sort of like as we come into October, November, December, before it gets too cold out there, start thinking about the areas you're going to start growing your veg and covering those areas. And then you can start, when the nettles start coming up, you can start mulching all the nettles in sort of like in February, March, and you can start really preparing. You can build compost loos and things like that, so you can start developing your own compost systems. There's lots of things you can do, but you can really make it very easy for yourself to have an allotment. By doing this pre-preparation in October, November, December, of covering that land that you think you might have a garden on, and that you might grow veg on. Make it easy for yourself, so it's not hard work. Most people put themselves off when they have to go and dig that land up, and they use all their energy, vast amounts of energy, and they're completely done with it. Their backs are broken, they're done with it. And if we are coming to a time where it's going to be difficult, you're not going to have that much energy, because there's not going to be that much food around. Your pre-preparation that you do now, finding containers that store water, that's the next thing. Finding sort of like nutrients and that sort of stuff that are going to help grow those plants. Start thinking about those sort of things. Start thinking about netting and stuff like that. These things are all very cheap at the moment, very obtainable. They're all things that you could use in an allotment. And if you've got them now and you start preparing those areas now, you're going to be in a much better situation than if you wait to the last minute and think, when you need seed, and you realise that it's very difficult to get hold of seed. It's very, things are really, all the systems have been shut down because this thing has caused us. I'm foreseeing a lot of big problems coming in as a result of Nibiru flying by, and the preparation you make now doesn't need to be any more than you would normally do in your life now. It's just bringing it all together and doing things that you kind of would do anyway. If you don't normally have an allotment, think about getting one. Think about all the parameters. How much is it going to cost you to set it all up? You're talking about sort of like as little as $50 to set a basic thing up. American dollars, 40, 50 pounds. 40, 50 euros, whatever it is, or you could spend, you could spend obviously, you could spend $200 or $300 euros getting stuff together. You don't have to spend millions to do this. Seed is cheap. Organic seed is cheap. Like I say, I've got some great connections for seed, and if you want my help, write to me on subgeniustv@gmail.com and tell me you want your seeds, and I'll sort it out. You know, because that's one of the ways in which I can make some money while I'm up in the mountain. Is, you know, we've got all these seed banks up here, various different seed banks, you know, that came up to the mountains. When they really came up, I'm not too sure the history of each seed bank, but they've got great selections. They've been running for a long time. I'm a member of some of them now, and it's just like getting seed out to people is that's going to be the most valuable commodity on this planet outside of water. It's going to be water, seed, nutrients to select the land, good soil, but it's going to start with seed. Without the seed, what do you want? You think there's going to be? Do you think, there's not going to be any supermarkets after this? There's not going to be any retail outlets. There's not going to be food. We've all forgotten how to grow food, to do all these old-fashioned things. Food is going to come at an enormous premium. Seed is going to be worth its weight in gold, if not far more. And so seed is what it's all about. Getting hold of seed right now is everything you can do. So do get in contact with me individually if you want me to work with you getting seed out. If not, just organic seed supplies. But like I say, I'm getting big batches together and I'm sending them out to people, and I'm quite happy to do that with anyone who wants to work with me on that level, and to build a bit of a forum on some of the sites, on some of the YouTube videos that we've created. We can definitely do that. We've got some great seed banks around here, and we just don't know what's going to happen with this big merger. And I'm going to talk about that maybe more in another video, really, than sort of like, because I don't really know that much about it, but I sense that it's not a good situation, and I'm not that up on it at the moment. I haven't done that much research. Certainly getting a lot of emails for petitions about this big merger that's coming up. But like I say, I'm certainly not qualified to talk about it, so I will go there when we know a little bit more about it. But now on to the focus of my 200-day cycle that I put forward, that Jeff P's kind of noted in some of his videos, and I put a video up that was put up by LiveLeak in my last video, and it turns out that it came in I think it came in June 2000 and when was it? Fukushima was in March 2011, so this would have come in June. The original sighting was actually in June 2011. The sighting that I thought was coming up I thought came in June 23rd or 24th, 2016, actually came in 2011. So a million apologies for that. It was reposted at that time to make it, perhaps, I mean, I don't know if people do it intentionally, try to sort of throw us off track, but anyway, it was in June 2011, and apologies for that. I made that mistake, and sometimes we do make mistakes by people posting videos under certain dates, and whether they deliberately do it to throw us off track or to put information up there, I don't know. But I corrected the video as soon as I found out. One of my subscribers informed me, and so I took it out straight away, and I apologised in the comments, and that's the best I can do. And sometimes we all make mistakes, or we all led astray, or whosoever puts these videos up and puts dates and times and tries to mislead, or who knows. There's no blame. I take total responsibility for that, but apologies. And like I say, it's an updating process. But I'd just like to say with that we had in March 2011 we had Fukushima occur. So we're assuming that Nemesis, or I'm assuming that Nemesis started its inner approach to the inner kind of aspect of our solar system around about 2010, 2009, 2008, somewhere like that sort of period. And it came in under the sun. It came in, I suppose, slightly under the Earth. It's more perpendicular to our solar system than this sort of angle. So it came in, I'm assuming, at a much steeper angle, but it's coming out at a much shallower angle. So it's coming over the top of the sun, and it's coming out and going out at a much shallower angle like this. And that I'm assuming, but it's also spiraling round as it comes in. So it's not literally just going straight over; it's spiraling around as it goes over. And so we can see that if March 2011 was when Fukushima occurred, and I'm assuming that the Nibiru and Nemesis were a big part of that. If we go a year back from then, we're assuming this is spiraling in. So if we go a year back, we would expect more like February, because Nemesis would have been spiraling in and over as it came round, which means that the year before, it would have been probably around about February that it would have most affected us. February, then March the next year, and then it approaches the inner aspect where it's least affecting us and more affecting our sun as it goes over. It goes over until 2015, 2016, until it's gone completely over and it's spiraling back out again. And so we are now coming into the period where it's affecting us, where we're seeing more than the one sighting every 200 days as it went over the top of the sun, and we are starting to see this pattern affect us in the same way as it came in. So what happened in February 2010? Well, we had the Chile earthquake, a massive earthquake in Chile, absolutely massive, and that totally fits into that cycle. We don't know. We've got all these different sites. Most of these sites that I'm offering, that I'm saying that I'm assuming are Nibiru coming into view. The reason they stand out is because they stayed in the sky much longer than a jet. In some cases, they went sideways and backwards, but they didn't stay in the air like a jet. They weren't rapidly moving. They weren't moving out of our field of view in a very quick period as we're accustomed to with jets and rockets. These things were staying almost in one place. They looked like they didn't move for like 25, 35, 40 minutes in some cases. Jets don't do that. Rockets don't do that. They kind of move. They come into our field of view. They stay for anywhere between 30 seconds and 90 seconds, sometimes a little bit longer. Sometimes a jet will stay for like 5 or 6 minutes in our field of view. But you never see a jet just hovering in one place for 25, 35, 40 minutes. It just doesn't happen. And so then we know it's out in space. And that's what isolates the specific cycles, the specific planets in the cycle. And so that was just the little update I really wanted to bring about, was that it's time to start thinking about seed. It's time to start thinking about it's time to really start preparing and think what you're going to do to prepare for this thing that's arriving. Personally, I've seen Jeff P's latest vids, and I can see this thing is absolutely massive. Maybe it is. I offered October and December as my next flybys, but December would actually be, and then certainly in the 200-day sequence that I put forward, that run from really pretty much 5th of August 2011 that I've been offering forward, and then showing how after the 22nd of December 2015, where thereafter it started showing itself every 100 days, because it was getting so much further away from the sun then, that it was doing everything it did when it came in, much more frequent, showing itself more frequently, and then reaching the 200-day cycle when it was going around the sun, and then suddenly appearing to every 100 days, and probably more now as we get much closer to it. That kind of 200-day sequence, I believe, is finished now, and we're going to start seeing much more regular occurrence of regular sightings of it. But nonetheless, that 200-day cycle, those 200-day cycles gave us a lot of information of when it might really mostly its closest proximity to us, specifically using that kind of that information. And I feel that though we're going to be seriously affected by this from here on in, the closest flyby, by that information from the 200-day perspective point, I still feel that late December and potentially January are going to be the most likeliest dates of the closest flyby that we're going to get from this thing. Not that we're not going to get asteroids coming in and other things and all sorts of gravitational anomalies, and there's going to be a lot of other information coming in now. We can pretty much expect. I think that, though, like I say, we can expect big effects in October because this thing's getting very close to us, but it's still very far away compared to the real position of Earth and the real position of Nibiru. And so the last thing I want to talk about now is are we being protected? And I kind of, Steve Olson has been talking about, a lot of people have been showing images, satellite images coming in of the sun from various sources. Stereo A and Stereo B have been two really topical subjects because of this strange thing that came into view around about 2007, 2008 that we're being told is a lens effect. And we've seen loads of corroborating testimony and loads of unusual lens flares that seem to, that we've told are lens flares, or people are telling us, or comments are assuming it's lens flares. But now we're all starting to think maybe this is a massive device. And I'm of a mind that we are being massively protected at the moment. And I think this is evidence of protection. We don't know what this massive thing is. We don't know what it is. We've got lots of opinions going on. Scientists don't know what it is. We're getting, like I say, loads of opinions. The messages I'm getting when I do my process is that we are being massively protected by great powers at the moment. And so I would like to leave you with this and just say to you, your most powerful tool right now is your intuition, your instinct. You have to listen to your heart right now. It's really important that you do that. Listen to your heart right now. If you're a sneerer and a smirker, then that's the best you can do. That's just the best you can do. And I've been a sneerer and a smirker at times in my life. I ain't going to point my finger at anyone and say that you shouldn't laugh at anyone who puts this information up. Do what you like. If that's the best you can do, that's your best you can do. But there's hundreds of thousands of images of Nemesis and Nibiru and whatever the other systems that are going around, whatever that is. There's just too many sightings now. That's, to me, it's called corroborated testimony. And that's a very valuable thing in science. It's all about observation. Science isn't about theories. Theories is what you do, where you go with your observation. But the observations of how you get your data is observation. And these are observations, and these are corroborated testimonies that are coming in from many different sources. And so they're valid. They're valid. Sneerers and smirkers, you do what you do. If that's who you are, that's who you are. And that's the best I could do at certain times in my life. And so I point no finger of blame. If that's the best you can do, that's the best you can do. If it's belittlement, that's the best you can do. Do it. Do what you've got to do. Everyone's got to do what they've got to do at this time. Whether you're going to follow your head and go with your beliefs, or follow your heart and go with your feelings and your deep intuition, then that's, you've got to do what you've got to do. You've got to go where you've got to go. But I would tell you that, I'm not a Christian in the sense that I would go to churches or anything else like that. I go to this, I connect to my God in this space in my heart. And I can imagine that that's what Jesus did. I can't imagine Jesus having a Bible. Like I say, John the Baptist poured water over people's head to give them clarity of thought. And I would really advise to try and put your Bibles down now and see if you can learn the lessons of your Bible and bring those lessons into your life now, and see if you can do what Jesus did, what he was trying to teach you without the Bible. Put the Bible down for a little bit and see if you can do and follow those teachings within your own heart now. See if you can ride the bike without stabilizers. See if you can learn to do and live your life like Jesus did by following your heart, rather than just keep turning to this Bible and regurgitating. Because you have to understand that, what a Protestant is compared to a Catholic. In the days in England years ago, to be a Protestant was a Protestant, was someone who wanted a Bible in the English language, so they could understand it, so it didn't have to be interpreted through another. And so to have an English language Bible is actually being a Protestant. That's what a Protestant is to have a Bible that you can understand yourself. And anyone who was in the possession of one of those pre the sort of like the King James version was pretty much burnt, hung, drawn and quartered. They were tortured. It was a terrible thing to have a Bible in the English language. And so if you've got an English language Bible, you're effectively a Protestant, because you can understand your own Bible, and so I would tell everyone that if you've got an English language Bible, you have to understand it's an interpretation of the English language, and often that was interpreted from the Catholic version, which was, I believe, was in Greek, and these are all interpretations for interpretations. So you might think it's the Word of God, but you will also understand that there is an interpretation of the Word of God, and so maybe it's time to understand that maybe it's time to really see if you can learn what the Bible's trying to teach, not just get lost in the text like some kind of like a lawyer does, trying to convert and find inner truth in this text. What about just trying to fundamentally understand what the meaning of that was, which was to try and teach you to be better, to do better, and to not follow in blind belief, but see if you can enter into that space of your heart, not try to just lock onto belief on its own, and to enter into prayer, because that's the only thing that's going to really help us all in this time, is reaching up to the big gods and realize that there's big help available to us, but it will not help us if we are at war, if we are a planet lost in aggression. We think of all the depleted uranium thrown on sort of like in the form of all the depleted uranium that was dumped on Iraq in the form of all these depleted uranium bombs. To me, that was the worst crime that was ever done, and that was all done through use of religious institutions. Tony Blair used Christianity and all these other institutions so he could do that. All these institutions are taking over our religious structures and using belief, white cold belief, that if you believe, it's enough. Do you think that Jesus celebrates the fact that all that depleted uranium was dumped in his name on Iraq and Afghanistan and who knows where else it's been used in other warfare? And it's so often Christian kind of crusading that has led to these heinous crimes. Think about where your belief is taking you at the moment. What does that feel right, that Christianity is used to start all these wars? Now we want to stop all these refugees coming into Europe that are fleeing weapons that have been used, sold to especially from Britain and America, and there's lots of European countries there's a few European countries. I don't want to start rubbing salt into injury any more than my own country really, but where are you with this? Do you think that's fine? Is that okay in your book? To just think about the level of crimes that have been done and using Christianity as a means to do these. Is that right? Is Jesus happy that we dumped all that depleted uranium on Iraq? Is Jesus happy? Do you think that because you believed, all those who followed Tony Blair, do you think just because he used the word Jesus, do you think that was right? And where are you with that, Where are you with your beliefs, Christians out there that just think belief is all you need to be saved in this. Do you think that's enough? Or do you think Jesus had a slightly more complex message than that? Do you think he was trying to teach you how to follow your heart, or was he just wanting you to enter into white belief where you don't question ethics anymore? As long as you believe Jesus is our saviour, you're saved. Is that it? Is that enough? You don't care whether mass genocide is done in the name? Is that Jesus' message? And so you really got to be thinking really about where you're going with this right now. And so, it's time to follow your heart. It's time to prepare. It's time to do what you've got to do. Remember, seed makes more seed, makes more seed, makes more seed. Seed is the most valuable thing you can have right now. Following your intuition, being sensible, water containers, all the things that we just use so wastefully now are going to come at an incredible premium in what I see as a matter of months. We're going to have a very difficult times. We're going to be very unprepared. There's a lot of those that are going deep underground. They believe that they're going to be safe there. Understand that many of these underground shelters are built to sort of withstand sort of like 8 on the Richter scale or whatever. And I don't know a great deal about this, but I do understand that 8.1 is double what 8 is on the Richter scale. And when you're talking about these massive great earthquakes, potential earthquakes that are going to come, are they going to be able to withstand that? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. It's a risk that you might be willing to take, but understand that it's going to be like being on the bottom of a ship and a tiny crack, and magma is going to come through those tiny cracks at a very, very, very high pressure, and it's going to melt anything as it moves through. Are you going to be able to put your thumb over the hole? Boiling hot magma coming through. Would you want to be down at the bottom of the ship? Would you be going to the bottom of a ship in difficult times? You're going to be wanting a way off that ship, or you're going to be looking for buoyancy rafts of things that float on that magma. Going to the bottom of a ship at that time, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not a good idea. We've all got to decide what's going to be our best course of action. For me, it's things that float on magma, but actually it's divine grace, prayer. And if you don't believe in God, then, or if you haven't got a God you connect with, then maybe it's about time you find one. And if you don't know of any good gods to connect with, then maybe it's a good time to put that out, to put a message out to your Creator, to your divine Creator that created the divine genes, the same Creator that created these seeds that I'm talking about, that could give you life. But if you don't know who your Creator is or your God is, then say that in your prayer. Say something like, construct your own prayer. If you haven't got a God and you don't trust anyone else's God, and you believe that you're here in this body, it's created through divine, or however it's created, whatever you want to put out to whatever Creator, construct a prayer that says thank you, first of all, for this body that you have, and for this world that you live on, and go into that space where you find most amount of peace. I'm holding my hand over my heart here, and I suggest you do the same. Go to that space and ask that which created you, the divine process that truly created the divine genealogy that you are, so you can exist on this plane, and provided this plane to you, so you can have these bodies and have this platform that you can live on, and have this air that you can breathe, and have this food that was offered to you in this natural form that many of these Monsanto companies want to take over, and all the rest of it. But come to that space of that divine gift, and hold that divine gift in your hand, like as if it's, and say thank you for that. First of all, just offer thanks and gratitude, and humble yourself to that great genius, that great intelligence, and go to that space, and go to that space in your heart. Think of your mother, think of the people that you truly love in your life, your mother that gave birth to you, all the wonder that has enabled you to be here. Try to make a connection to that wonder. Don't go into the story of belief and this antagonistic noise. Come out of that noise. Come into a humble space. It doesn't have to be Jesus, it doesn't have to be Buddha, you don't have to give it any name. It can be a feeling. Humble yourself in that feeling. Go into that space and ask for great help and great assistance for all that is. Invite great assistance in from great, benevolent, friendly, peaceful powers that want to help with us at this stage. Ask them for their assistance. Humble yourself in front of. You can put seeds out. You can literally get seeds and place them out, and you can humble yourself in front of the genius of those seeds and the genius that created those seeds, the genius that created this world, that makes life on this earth. Quell your little mind, empty your glass and say a prayer. This is your most powerful tool right now, is prayer. And then having the time and making the effort by opening the space so you can hear the answers to those prayers. It's not just speaking out the prayers, it's taking the cosmic crowbar, wrenching open the time and the space so you can listen to the answers of those prayers. Try sitting in front of a mirror. Try setting mirrors apart from each other so you see yourself at different angles, and observe your body as you sit in meditation and see what your body does as it listens to the nonsense that you endure whilst your body sits there. And you have to endure so much nonsense because this is the television noise that is coming in, that is bombarding humanity. This is the true government, governed to rule over mind. The nonsense that is pummeling, through fourth dimensional kind of systems. We are being pummeled by this noise that we assume is I. We get lost in this noise. Try and observe what the body does, what the body gets up to, whilst we immerse ourselves in this noise. We lose vast amounts of our lives to this noise, whilst our bodies have to do all this stuff. So try and observe with a series of mirrors different parts of your body and how your body deal with what your body does, what you do, whilst getting preoccupied with all this noise. Try and learn ways of coming out of the noise and coming back into your body. Try and observe what your body gets up to whilst you're idly getting lost with so much of the nonsense that goes through you. And try and come back into your body. Try and do exercises, meditation, whatever it is, yogic exercises, walking over the hill, practices that don't involve dark opinions where you're judging someone, hating someone, having these horrible opinions about someone. Try and be better than the noise running through your head. That's it, folks. That's Davey Dobbs out for the day. I'm sorry if I don't quack like you. I've had a lot of people saying, you're talking bullshit, la 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 la. I don't quack like you guys. I do a very different process. My teachings come by mostly, the starting of my teachings that came to me through early morning meditations, getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and doing this writing practice. And I did it for 4 years, and really I never missed a day. And if I did, I'd make it up. And I wrote for 6 hours every day, and that's where the knowledge came in. That's where the resource came into me. And the biggest thing I was up against always was my own belief system. Always, every morning, I'd be battering against my belief system for 6 hours. And I did that for 4 years non-stop. That eventually gave me the messages that I was able to see this sort of stuff over and above my belief system. Most of you need to work with your belief system because it's not you. But if you absolutely want to become your belief system, I promise you, you absolutely can. because we are going into a singularity. That's what's happening. That's all that's happening. We are becoming, we each and every one of us will be only one human being, one soul, no backseat drivers, no interference. But many of you will not be, some of you will not be able to, many of you will, most of you will break away from your beliefs. Don't worry. Most of you will. It's just going to be a natural process. It's just going to, the story is just going to break away and the truth is just going to be left for you to see. But many of you, some of you will become your beliefs. And like I say, and that's going to be a bit of a painful process. But like I say, we go into a singularity, and whichever way you really want, humanity has the final choice here. This isn't about what the soul wants. This is about the human animal state of you, as in the being that sits there. When you observe in a mirror, that's the real true you. Trying to deal with all the nonsense that goes through our heads, and you just watch yourself clear. Just try and hold yourself steady and observe different parts of your body, and ask different parts of your body how it feels, and try to be present just to observe that part of your body, and you'll find that your ego doesn't like it very much. You'll find that the noise, the rant, and just move through it. Just stay with your body. That's who you truly are. And then through that conduit, you can bring enormous wisdom in. So that's the process, really. Coming back into your body, trying to not get lost in judgment of other people. That's where we're at right now. It's going to be, like I say, personally, I believe that January is going to be the biggest flyby. I'm of a mind that we are being massively protected at the moment. But if we end up going into war, if the British government ends up taking the country into war, we're seeing America desperately trying to start a war in Syria at the moment. They're desperate for World War III, because that's the only way they can get control. If they can take us into war before we all realise Nibiru is happening, that's their game. Then we haven't got the help of the gods, and then we're dependent on the others, basically, that have been here for thousands of years anyway, that have been living in our oceans that we simply can't believe. And they want complete autonomy, control over us, and so they're going to try and get us to sign all sorts of agreements where we give up our sovereignty for something shiny, iPhones and all sorts of crazy technology. I would say to you, there's many gods out there much more powerful, much more benevolent than the reptilian gods that are ruling over us at the moment, and we've got to rise above that now. We've got to come to a new state. Okay, that's it. Ciao for now. Bye. I've come through sort of like a few years of doing sort of satirical politics, and most people know me as Dave Dobbs, so I kind of stick with it really. But overall, though, my last video, I must admit, I was really struggling when I made the last video. I was so upset about the sort of like state of everything, especially upset about Europe, and I was leaving Europe, Britain leaving Europe, and a whole load of other things, and I just see us now another sort of like we all find ourselves at another kind of juncture now, and how we're going to deal with all this. And I talked a lot in my last video about belief, and about how it's very, very difficult for us to even believe what's going on, and I guess I'm kind of trying to say that belief in itself is the thing that we're really struggling with at the moment. And belief is what everyone is going to have to, you can go out and find all the truth you want in the world, but if you can't believe it, it's useless to you. It's like eating all the nutrients you can, but not having the ability to digest the nutrients. And this is a big part of what's happening in in our nutritional diets at the moment, especially in the West. We find that people are just shoving food in their mouths, but they're dying of malnutrition because they can't access the nutrients, because they haven't got the right type of nutrients that enable their body to pick up or absorb the fundamental nutrients. So, and information is a bit like that. We can go on a quest to find information, but if we can't believe that information before it comes in, then we really are. You might as well not bother going on the quest in the first place, because what's the point of having the information and finding the information if you can't believe it? And so this is the big thing about where we're at the moment, and this is where we're all going to be taken off guard. Even myself, most people are going to be taken off guard by their beliefs, because they can't allow the information to filter through to the core of who they are, because their belief mechanisms, what I would call your mind control, your government, govern to rule over, mente, mind, that controls your mind through belief structures, is limiting what you're allowing in. And so we are limiting what we are willing to do to deal with what's coming in. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here, aka David Field. That's what I'm probably known most commonly to my friends and that sort of stuff, because that is actually my real name, but Dave Dobbs is a name that sort of